Well, hello, everyone. Well, today I have a very special guest, Aaron Doughty, and he is one of my favorites when it comes to creating our world in the law of attraction. I think you're going to learn a lot today from Aaron. He is truly one of the most inspirational speakers out there today, and he's really getting the younger generation all excited about the reality and the truth of who we really are, what we're here to do. And it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Aaron today on my show. So, Aaron, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about your spirituality, your life, how you got where you are, and most of all, your teachings and how you
Yeah.
have really empowered so many people in the world. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Aaron.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joni, for having me on and for everything that you said in that intro. Yeah, I am a content creator. I've been making YouTube videos now for about 7 or 8 years. And I am, yeah, in the spirituality niche. I went through a spiritual awakening in 2012 that completely transformed my life. And in 2017 is when I started making daily videos on YouTube. I've always been so fascinated by how reality works, fascinated with spirituality. And back in 2017, I started making daily videos. I was working a sales job at Barney's, New York, selling women's shoes. And I simply made the choice, knew I didn't want to be there long term. So I made the choice to make a video every single day on YouTube until I was no longer at that 9 to 5 job. So what I would do is I would already in my personal life be studying metaphysics. I'd be studying and listening to like Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza and reading these books and doing all these things. So I thought, why don't I just share what I'm learning? And working that sales commission job, the cool thing with that and how it relates to the law of attraction is in that sales commission job selling women's shoes, every day I went in, it's commission sales job. So every day I went in, it started at 0. And I was able to very clearly see the correlation between what I was thinking, what I was feeling, how I was showing up every day to what my results were. So even though I wasn't an expert when I started on YouTube or whatever we would call that, I would just share what I was learning while I was working that job. So I would go in and notice like, okay, if I go in all serious with a certain vision of a certain goal, my energy would get kind of resistant and I would get a certain result. Maybe it wasn't as good of a result as I wanted to. If I went in and I had fun and I focused on connecting with the customers and I focused on adding value, I would get a different response using the law of attraction. So I would test these different energies and I would test my thoughts and I would use that in a way as like be the guinea pig of my own experiment of learning how this whole, like how reality works, how goals and our mind and how that goes into our energy and how we show up in the world. And that was kind of my playground for learning about the law of attraction and spirituality. And then I had this transformation for me that happened when I realized, I read this book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and I realized it's a book that's about self-image and how we see ourselves. And I realized that my self-image working that sales job selling women's shoes was that I was at every day, the next day, there'd be this list of people of who the top salespeople were from the last day. Like literally you could see what the salespeople sold from the last day was. And every day we would check that list as we came into work. And I noticed that I was always in the middle. I was never at the bottom, but I also wasn't, the people that were at the top were consistently like 1 or 2 at the top. And as I was reading this book on Psycho-Cybernetics on self-image, I realized that I saw myself as an average, mediocre sales employee. I was thinking, feeling, and acting equal to that reality. So what I began to do at this job, and I shared this on my channel and stuff, and this is kind of what sparked my channel, was I started to think, feel, and act as the top sales version of myself. I would link up my body language to that version of me. I would greet every customer because I noticed that the version of me that was a top salesperson greeted every customer. I wasn't selective. Mm-hmm. And what I did is I started to be that version of me. And within a few days, I was consistently at the top of that list. Every day I'd go in, I'd be at the top of the list. And I was like, okay, what is this? There's something here. So what I eventually did is I used it to become and to start selling more. and I used it in that area. And I thought, well, I'm not really even passionate about selling women's shoes. I've just been doing it for years. And the funny thing is too, the people that were the best, that were at the top consistently, they loved it. They loved it. There was this one guy that like had an Instagram account and he had like 50,000 followers because Kim Kardashian liked one of his photos once, and he made all of his money through his Instagram, and he loved it. That was his passion, and he crushed it because he loved it. And I realized this other lady that was really good, she loved it too. And I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy selling women's shoes. I wasn't passionate about it. So then I thought to myself, how can I use this in a way to actually talk about the things I'm passionate about? So what I did is I used that same philosophy and I started to make videos. I thought, what is the full-time version of Aaron that's a YouTuber? Because I knew I wanted to be a YouTuber. So what I did is I connected to my heart and I connected to my imagination, and I thought, okay, how can I be the full-time version of Aaron? And I noticed that the full-time YouTuber version of Aaron made daily videos on YouTube, not one a week, not one a month, because for a long time I was making like one video and then 3 months later I'd make another video and there was no growth. And I thought to myself, I had this, I was actually at the time, I moved back in at my dad's house. So here I am living at my dad's house, working this 9-to-5 sales job, wanting to be on YouTube, talking about the law of attraction. And it felt so hypocritical in so many different ways, because it was like, who am I to be talking about this stuff? Yeah. But in meditation one day, I had this idea that if I like almost this download for my future self that said, if you make videos every single day on YouTube for a year, no matter what, your life will transform in a year. Mm-hmm. And I got that download or that message, and I just felt like it was a message for my future self, or whatever you want to call it. And what I did is February of 2017, I made the commitment that I'm going to make a video every single day on YouTube, no matter what. Didn't know how to edit. You go back to my YouTube channel and look at my very first video, and like it says like first blog post here or something, because that was what it auto-populated in iMovie. I didn't know how to edit that out. I didn't know what to do, and I still put it up. And it was every single day made a video, got a little bit better at editing, figured things out as I went. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, a video started to pop, kept making videos, even though I was working 40 hours a week at my 9-to-5 job, selling women's shoes. And eventually what I did is I realized that for my side hustle, or the thing I'm passionate about, to become my full-time, I must embody it as if it's my full-time now. So I thought, this needs to become my dominant reality. So every day I'd go to that job. At the end of the day, sometimes, working in Las Vegas, which is where I was born and raised, sometimes I'd get done at work at 11 o'clock at night because we were open till real late. I'd go home at my dad's house. I would film a video in the room that I was living in. I would edit the video. I would schedule the video to go out the next day. And then I go to bed, wake up, and go back to work the next day. And sometimes that was my reality, but I was so committed to this version of me. Within 3 or 4 months, I started to gain more traction. And within 6 months, I had 100,000 subs. And that was when I then was like, I was a little bit reluctant to quit my job, because I was like, what if it doesn't work out? But I knew that this was my path and my mission. But I then, what happened is my last day of having a 9-to-5 job ever was when there was a Conor McGregor Mayweather fight, which is like a big boxing match that was happening. And I knew it was going to be busy in Vegas because that's where the fight was happening. So I put in my 2 weeks before that Saturday so that I could work that day, because I knew I was going to make a lot of money in commission. And then I requested to open that day so that I could still go home at the end of the day on my last day of work, and I could go to my friend's house and watch the fight because I wanted to watch the fight. So basically, my YouTube channel grew, and then my last day working was that Conor McGregor Mayweather fight. That was my last day of ever having a 9-to-5 job. I worked, made a whole bunch of commission, then went to my friend's house, and it was like a totally new me. And from that point going forward, I learned, I learned like internet marketing. I learned how to become the most abundant version of myself. And then I just kept getting better at making videos. And since then I'm grateful it's been able to grow to over 1 million subscribers. I've been able to travel the world, do live events, and it all stemmed from that decision to really go for it. And I've just always been fascinated with how astrology works, or not astrology works. I'm sorry, fascinated with how reality works. Yeah. And I know that when you and I were talking recently, and you looked at my chart and you explained, oh, you like to learn about how reality works. You said you're not really a superficial, like materialistic person. You just like the spiritual side of things. And I've always been fascinated with that. But also I enjoy the human experience as well. Like I enjoy abundance and luxury and things like that. Like I think part of spirituality is enjoying this human experience. And yeah, most of my channel is geared around making spirituality practical and relatable. And also I preach a lot going deep. Now, going deep, what I mean by this is I'm not like, there's a lot of law of attraction surface level teachings where it's like, and I'm not talking crap about this or anything, but it's like, think better thoughts, just change your focus of thoughts. And that can work in a certain perspective. However, I'm all about getting to the core. And when I say getting to the core, like I mean going deep and understanding a lot of times how we recreate childhood dynamics in our life now that are familiar childhood dynamics that were alive when we were kids. So instead of thinking better thoughts and wanting to change how you feel by focusing on, positive thoughts, I believe more in getting deep and actually feeling the emotion to complete it so that then it releases and then you're really emotionally free. How to get to the core of where the shadow is, of where that is. And I believe that in the feeling is the healing. So a lot of what I teach was my experience of my childhood of having someone in my life from 7 years old to 15 years old. And that's when my dad divorced my ex-stepmom. But my ex-stepmom, who is a narcissist and was like very controlling, she was in my life from that period of time. And it was like that in a way was very traumatic. And there was a lot of abandonment wounds and things that sprung from that. Mm-hmm. And people pleaser mentality that I had to shed. And I kept attracting, after she left my life when I was 15, I kept specifically attracting women in my life that were very controlling. And there was something that was familiar. Even though on one hand, I got to fight for my freedom and I don't like it, I felt what was familiar to me was having a woman specifically in my life that was controlling and manipulative. So after my ex-stepmom left, I then had a girlfriend who was very controlling and jealous. She always was, she was very jealous, and she was in my life for 4 years. Funny enough, she was in my life for 4 years. I broke up with her finally. I was in that relationship too long, just like my dad was in the relationship with my ex-stepmom too long. And then what happened is I broke up with her. Within 2 weeks of breaking up with her, I was working at Nordstrom's in women's shoes. I got transferred from one department to a better department, from Brass Plum Shoes, which is like the cheaper women's shoe department, also commission sales-based job. I got transferred to Salon Shoes, which is designer shoes, more commission, more money. But the manager of that department was the same exact personality construct of my ex-stepmom. She was controlling, manipulative, would gaslight people. She was protected by upper management. So she was there for years, and it was crazy how this dynamic was in my life until 2012, when I went through my spiritual awakening. I learned meditation, and at the time I had what's called ADHD, where I was taking Adderall for it, and I felt like that wasn't really solving things, and I felt really dependent because I was taking Adderall in the morning and smoking weed at night to balance out the side effects of the Adderall so that I could eat and sleep. So I felt codependent on this hamster wheel. And then I learned, I came across, I was looking for natural ways of curing ADHD online and without taking pharmaceuticals, because the side effects of Adderall were so harsh. So what I did is I came across the research on meditation, and basically I learned how to observe my thoughts, not try to control them. And from learning meditation, within weeks, I started to feel completely different. Within 2 weeks of observing my thoughts, not trying to control them, there was this spaciousness that came up within me that ended up sparking my spiritual awakening. But what ended up happening is within 2 weeks, completely stopped taking Adderall, completely stopped smoking weed. If on a scale of 1 to 10, I was 10 feeling amazing, 1 feeling not great at all, I was at about a 3. If I would smoke or do something, I could feel a 5. All of a sudden, just from meditating, bringing the awareness in my body and observing my thoughts, I started to feel like I was at about a 7 or 8 out of 10. I started to literally feel high all the time. Yeah. And it was life-changing. And that was when got rid of all those Adderall and the cannabis. And then I also started looking at my beliefs about reality. I started realizing how that ex-stepmom situation of someone that was physically, mentally, emotionally abusive in my life from 7 to 15, how I was recreating that. And I had this, during meditation, I had this epiphany of this realization of like forgiving my ex-stepmom, of realizing that she was simply playing out the same patterns that she learned from her dad, because her dad was a narcissist and would beat the shit out of her. So then that's why she would then take that into how she parented my brother and I. So in that forgiveness and realizing the belief that all women are trying to control me, I had this big healing process. And within 2 weeks, that manager that was my manager for years, and we tried getting her fired and we just couldn't because she was protected by upper management, because she would get away with crazy stuff. Within 2 weeks, she got fired for something really stupid. She left my life. That narcissist personality structure left my life as I became aware of that pattern within myself that was attracting it. As I felt it, and that as I would feel it, it would then heal. And my whole entire life transformed from that point going forward. So that was in 2012. That was my spiritual awakening. From 2012 to 2017, I was just studying metaphysics, spirituality, listening to seminars. I became obsessed with learning as much as I could about how reality works. And that was then in 17, went daily on YouTube. From 2017 till now, 2023, my YouTube channel has exploded. I travel the world. I do live events. I love learning about spirituality and seeing how to basically help other people transform their lives by getting to the core of who they are to create transformation from the inside out, rather than just thinking better thoughts. It's like, how can we look at our identity and how we're showing up?
Yes, you have really taken life and all the lessons, applied it, and you know how it works. And
Yeah.
I know, Aaron, you're changing so many people's lives by your whole life experience. And the whole time you're talking, I'm relating it to all of my life experiences as well, what I've gone
Cool.
through in terms of learning. And, I used to be a flight attendant. And I
Oh,
remember
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
I used to practice the law of attraction when I was working flights. What I would put out there, all of a sudden I would have all these amazing people, all the passengers I would have so much fun with, I would start talking with. Now it was the coworkers that sometimes I had some problems with, but the passengers, I had a ball every day when I really put out. And I remember I would put out like a ray of light from my eyes of love. And
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and all of a sudden people would just be drawn to me, and we'd have these like profound conversations on the plane with people from all
Yeah.
over the world. It was fascinating. So what I'm trying to say is I put it into practice just in my
I
daily.
love that.
And
Yeah.
how it works. I mean, it's just proof that it works. And I know I went through, when I read all the law of attraction, and I thought, oh, this really works. And I talked about it and talked to my kids about it. And one day they said, Mom, you know what? You're not walking your talk. You're still being a victim. And I was like, you know what? They're right. When I totally got it and I started walking my talk and really doing the process like you and I are talking about, it's like the sky opened, the world changed. And of course, my passion, as you well know, because that's how we've met, is astrology. I've been an astrologer for 40 years. And first I used to do Western astrology, but then I shifted to Vedic astrology because it was so much more predictive and it went so much deeper. It talks about the soul, it talks about our karma. And when you combine astrology with the law of attraction, with life experience, with the realization of who we really are, and that's what we're connecting to when we get into those deeper awarenesses of consciousness, when we meditate and we get connected to the divinity of who we really are. When we do that, I mean, it's like everything changes, because the world, you're kind of like getting out of the illusion, if I could say.
Right. Yeah.
The illusion of what we thought our world is. And then we realize we are co-creators of our own world and our own universe. And through what we put out, we're going to get back. But while you were talking, Aaron, I think it's so interesting. I would love to look at your chart to see
Yeah.
how, you know, all of this has transpired and evolved, because my passion in life is to empower people through their horoscope.
Yeah.
Because in the horoscope, we can actually see who we've come here to be. And
Yeah.
we live, you know, when we find that and we live our path, just like you said, you weren't passionate really about shoes. I
No.
was really passionate about being a flight attendant, but we found our
No.
passion.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's just like, you know, the doors all open. And
Yep.
and for you, yeah, let's look at your chart. Do you
Let's
mind
do it.
doing that? Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's
I
look
mean,
at your chart and see what it says. And yeah, I mean, are you sure you want to reveal this to the world?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm an open book.
Yeah, I can tell you were, because you just tell everybody like it is. Because you know what? When we do open our hearts and, you know,
Yeah.
talk, you know, free and real, when we become real, guess what? People relate to us because
Yeah.
everybody's been there. You know, come on,
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. I'll be
Yeah.
first to admit it. Nobody's perfect. But we learn from each other. And
For sure.
yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. All right, let's
Okay.
get ready for this. I am going to share my screen, and
Okay.
uh, and let me pull up. I have your chart in here. Yes, I have looked at it before. So let me see here. Let me pull your chart up.
Let me
Okay.
just make a side note as well, Joni, about when we talked a couple months ago.
Mhm.
Uh, One thing I thought that was really cool about Vedic astrology was when you were looking at my dashas, and it just kind of goes to the testament of the power of Vedic astrology. And you could see very clearly that when I was 5 years old, either my parents divorced or I moved away.
Yeah.
And at 5 years old was when my parents divorced. And
Yes.
you were able to kind of go through my past. And you're like, okay, this was a big year for you. You know, you moved into this, like when you moved into your Jupiter dasha, that's when things started to pick up. That was 2012 when my awakening was. Like, you were very clearly able to see certain dates and milestones. And I thought that was really cool, because I think that's what makes Vedic astrology a little bit different than other modalities. It's just how precise that predictive nature is of seeing that. And it'll be cool to see what you say now, because in the next couple of years, we'll kind of see how things play out, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff shifting right now. So it'll be cool to see how this happens in alignment with like what you see, you know?
Exactly. I like, and you're getting excited. I can tell because you
Yeah.
know what's going to be happening. But you know, here's my philosophy on astrology. I know I've explained this to you before, but I want everyone to know this: that our chart is like a blueprint of everything that we have ever been before.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, that's like all of our lifetimes combined. And when you know what you brought into this lifetime through awareness, you have to realize you can change it. That's the
Right.
most important thing. So the chart
Yeah.
gives us the realization of how we can change our lives by realizing who we were, what we're here to overcome. So
Yep.
with no further ado, let me go ahead and share this screen. And yeah, here is your chart.
All right.
Yeah, so Aaron, double check me. Is everything correct here? Your birth data?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. That's
So
right.
looking at, I use the South Indian style chart. I know there's such a thing as the North, but I was taught by the South Indians. And looking at your chart, these are the houses. I want everybody to just kind of be able to follow. These are the houses. The signs stay fixed on these squares. And depending on your time of birth, which was 3:28 p.m., that determines your rising sign. And the rising sign sets up everything in your chart. So your rising sign, according to your time of birth, is Aries. And this is huge. Let me just say this. When I see somebody with an Aries rising, the reason why I get excited is I know that transiting Jupiter is about to go into Aries coming up here pretty soon. So we're going to talk about that. So
Okay.
what astrology is, for those of you that don't know, and I know most people on my channel know a little bit, but these are where all the planets were in the daytime and place of your birth. So it's like a map. And the signs, according to what sign is rising at your time of birth, set the whole map up. So looking at this, you have Aries rising, and because Mars rules your ascendant, Mars rules Aries, and it goes to the 12th house, this makes you very contemplative, very deep, someone that, you know, initially is shy and inhibited in this world. So it took a while for you to really come out and be who you were.
Yeah.
And looking at this, the dashas, like what I like to explain to people why Vedic astrology is so much more predictive is because we have a predictive tool called the dashas, and the dashas are actually based on the nakshatras, and this is very much only part of Indian Vedic astrology. So there's 27 nakshatras, and each nakshatra is ruled by a planet, and that determines your whole dasha sequence of your life, which you were talking about, which I want to bring up. But just looking at your chart before we go into all the predictive tools, I want you to know that this Jupiter moon conjunction that you have in the second house, the second house deals with your voice, and it also deals with money and wealth. And I want you to know, with that conjunction in your second house, you will experience great wealth and prosperity due to the power that you have to teach and use your voice. So you see, everything is predestined in a way because of something that you accomplished and who you were in a past life. You had the power of the voice. You brought that into this incarnation. And this is where, you know, your destiny unfolded for you, to be able to use that voice to teach, to speak. And Jupiter in Vedic astrology, this is Jupiter, is called guru. So it is the teacher. And Jupiter rules the ninth house because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So you have the ruler of the ninth house in the second house of your voice. And the ninth house is spirituality, truth, teaching, philosophy. So the fact that the ruler of the ninth goes in the second house of your voice, this is your destiny to speak your truth. The ninth house is the truth, by the way, and spirituality. So your teachings, Aaron, are really about inspiring and helping people be the best they can be. But in terms of their spirituality, you've always had this in you, and you've always been attracted to teachings and spirituality, philosophies in life. But you have a Mercury Sun conjunction in the eighth house, and the eighth house is metaphysical sciences and psychology. I have to say, from what you're describing, you're combining spirituality with psychology. What makes us tick. You love to know what makes people tick and what makes people do what they do. And this has given you the ability to understand human nature to help people. And, you know, the eighth house isn't the easiest house. Your life hadn't been a piece of cake. I can tell you that right now. So you've learned through some difficulties, but let me jump to something that we can't help but notice. This is the whole scenario of what you were talking about. Venus, you have Venus in Libra in your seventh house of relationships. What does that mean? That speaks volumes. And I did a little video on Venus-Pluto conjunction. I was like, I think I asked you, I said, did you see that video by any chance? And you said, yeah, that's what scared me. So let me tell you what this means. Well, Pluto is the planet of control, manipulation, and betrayal. And Venus is the planet of love. So you have the planet of love and romance and beauty in your seventh house of your marriage partner. And yes, you will attract very Venusian type women. In other words, beautiful, charming, graceful. You know what? The package matters to you. You've got to have a woman that's going to, you know, be a beauty, you know, so, and not only physically, but internally, everything. You want that grace, that charm, that beauty. That's Venus in Libra. And it's very charming and graceful, but Pluto's there. And Pluto deals with control, and Pluto deals with manipulation, and Pluto deals with betrayal. So just looking right off the bat at that, this is the whole description that you described, from your stepmother down to your current relationships, attracting women that want to control you, manipulate you, and somehow consequently in your mind, from your experience, from the many lifetimes you brought this in again to experience that. But it's not that you're destined for this terrible situation forever. This is what you brought in. So you were here to learn this. And as you learn that lesson, then you realize what it takes to overcome it, so that you don't have to come back in many lifetimes in the future to go through the same experience till you learned it. You got it. And now you're going to attract the higher vibration of what Pluto Venus is all about, which is a woman that you can work with that's very powerful. You love a powerful woman. You're powerful. Remember, relationships are always a mirror of who we are. You're going to attract someone that comes from that place of power. So those are just the few things that I wanted to discuss and bring to the attention of everyone from your chart and how this all works. But let's go to your dashas, and then I want to talk about your future, because, you know, that's what astrology basically, I believe, is for. People want to know, and it's not like you don't have free will to pick and choose things in the future, but we see the trends of when it's the most opportune time to make your move or when it's time to pull back. Astrology is nothing but the cycles, and we can use this. And you know, everything that we're talking about, it's energy, it's vibration, it's energy, it's frequency. That's what astrology is all about, the vibrational frequency of patterns and cycles. So let's best use them for our future. So I'm going to pull this over. There's a little photo there, but I'm going to pull this over because I want to look at your dashas. And here we go. And what I tell people when I pull this up, here is your whole life. This is your life outlined. I know it looks like Greek to most people, but this is truly a way that we can see when everything is meant to happen in our life. So these dashas are based on wherever your moon is. Your moon sits here in Taurus, but it's in the nakshatra. This MRG stands for Mrigashira, and it's ruled by Mars. Therefore, you started your whole life cycle, and it's always in accordance to where your moon is in Mars cycles. So if we go over here are the grand cycles. And right up here, it tells us how long each cycle is. Down here tells us how old we were in the cycle. Here's the years that you were in those in that particular cycle. Now there's a grand cycle and there's a sub-cycle that breaks up the grand cycle. And depending on how these planets are placed in your chart, will give the result of what you're here to experience, because each planet in each house represents something very specific that's going on. And when you change from one grand cycle to the next, always your life will change, not a little bit, but dramatically. Because then you're looking through the lens of an entirely different planet. So therefore your experience and your vision is different. So let's just talk about this. So you entered life into Mars Mahadasha, and you were in it till you were 5 years old. So Mars being here in the 12th house, I mean, that was tough. Probably Mars deals with fighting, with bickering, with difficulty. It's in the 12th house. You were shy, inhibited. I don't expect you to remember much because it was only from birth to 5. So, but you can see it wasn't easy. But when you were 5, this was when you shifted into Rahu. This is Rahu's cycle. When you shifted into Rahu, you were 5 years old, and the initial phase of Rahu lasted from 1994 to 1997. And this was a huge shift in your life. Everything had to change. And Rahu usually represents a move or a major breakup. As a kid, many times it's like when the child goes through an experience of the parents getting divorced, or there's a big move, or both. Something big happens. And what happened around 94 to 97?
Yeah, my mom and dad divorced, and I believe in 97, or no, maybe a little bit before. But in that time period is when also my mom and my dad divorced, and then I met my ex-stepmom. And that was like the start of that 7-year cycle of having to deal with her and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. So you see, that's when, of course, your life changed. So, in each one of these, what you process how the planet's placed and you'll get a definition of what's going on. But let's jump over here to the next life change. This was 2012 to 14. You went into Jupiter's Dasha. And
Yeah.
Jupiter is the planet that rules the ninth house of your spirituality, your truth, and it's in the second house. You woke up to something completely different around
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
you're still in the Jupiter cycle, and Jupiter being there with the moon, you're going to have a steady rise throughout your life, especially all the way till you are 39 and 5 months. This will be the year of 2028 to 2031. You'll go into Saturn. Saturn being here in your ninth house of spirituality and truth. This is going to be when you go full-fledged into your spirituality and your teaching. But let's go back to where we are right now. So you're in Jupiter, and you see Jupiter being in your second house of money and wealth. In your Jupiter Dasha, you will make an enormous amount of wealth. And something else I told you, and I want you to be aware of this, the fact that you have Moon Jupiter, and the moon rules the fourth house of home, family, real estate, property.
Yeah.
Moon being here with Jupiter in the second house of money, I told you to put your income or invest in real estate. This is going to be
Yeah.
where you make your money. So
Yeah.
so remember that. And so because you're in Jupiter's Dasha, this is the time to pay attention to that. See, now astrology just gives us tools that,
Yeah.
improves our life and to better guide us. So let's go to where we are right now. So Jupiter, actually we're in Jupiter Sun, but I was looking at this Jupiter Venus cycle. This was Jupiter Venus. It started April of 2020 through December of 2022. Now, you don't need to divulge too much information, but I can see that because Venus is here in the seventh house of relationships, there was something about a breakup or something difficult that
Yeah.
happened relationship wise. Isn't that true? Isn't that what we?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Because
During that period, pretty much right when you said it was within as soon as the Jupiter Sun period started, about 2 or 3 months before that was when everything shifted.
yeah, yeah. And here's the thing, because your Jupiter and Sun are in opposition. Oppositions are always about relationships and endings, and
Yeah.
because the Sun is actually a natural malefic. When you go into a dasha and the subcycle Bhukti is exactly opposed, and that planet's a natural malefic, which the Sun is, usually it's a breakup. But if
Yeah.
it were a natural benefic, it would be coming together in a marriage. I know that's probably too much information, but some of my some of my people understand how to work with dashas.
Can
So
I ask a question about that, Joni?
yeah,
So when it comes to the Dasha Bhukti, so during these subcycles, you said that the planets are just more powerful. So is it that
yeah,
house lights up and the planet lights up?
you got it exactly. Boy, you really pay attention, because yes, because when you're in that dasha bhukti, those planets light up, those houses light up. But let me take it another step further. The transiting
Yeah,
planets, where the planets are in the sky, light up and
got it.
become more powerful. So we know that you're in Jupiter Sun from December of 2022 through September 22nd of 2023. And the Sun being in the eighth house, this is your time for really understanding things from a deeper psychological perspective. The eighth house can deal with psychology. It deals with getting to the core and the bottom of things. And that's what you're doing. You're
Yeah,
really going deep and understanding things from a deeper perspective. But you're in preparement for when you go into Jupiter moon. Now, next September, I want to prepare you, September, the end of September 2023 through January 21st of 2025, then you will be in Jupiter moon. And this is phenomenal because they're conjunct here. It will activate these two planets, which are your major planets of speaking your truth, teaching. Remember, the second house is your voice, teaching. Jupiter rules the ninth, but it's with the moon. That is such a powerful, powerful combination. Your moon is even exalted in Taurus there. It's in the strongest sign. I can't tell you how that Jupiter moon dasha is going to bring you, I mean, to a new level, a new high with speaking engagements, but wealth and money. Don't forget the second house is wealth and money. You're getting ready for a phenomenal rise. And remember what I said, that the transits of planets during those dashas become more powerful. So let me show you your transits. This is where it really gets fun, where I can show you exactly when things are going to transpire and occur in your life. So look at this. So while this is calculating, I always look over here. Here's where the planets are today. Jupiter today is at, as we speak, the 13th of March is 20 degrees of Pisces. And it's going to continue in Pisces, but it's going to go into your first house. And as it does, this is like where you come alive. Right now, while Jupiter's in your 12th house, the 12th house is about endings. So you're bringing a lot of things to conclusions that you've started right before a brand new beginning. This is so exciting that Jupiter in the first, and when does Jupiter go into Aries? It tells you right over here, April 21st.
Oh, wow. It's coming up soon.
Yes. And it's going to be there for a year, a whole year.
And then where does it go? Taurus?
And then it's going to go into Taurus. And that's really what's going to blow you up big time. Because
okay, so that's even better for me.
Yeah, so you've got this whole array of events about to transpire because it couldn't be better. Okay, so I love when I get to see good things in a chart because I get to empower the person that this is the time that you got to be preparing for, right? So I notice also that Uranus, transiting Uranus, let's look over here, see it's 21 degrees of Aries right now. Your ascendant's 22 degrees of Aries. This is a very slow moving planet. It takes 84 years to go through the whole zodiac. So it being exactly on your ascendant is life-changing as well. This is the planet of change, disruption. It's called the Great Awakener. You are awakening to a whole new world because look, March 27th, Uranus will be exactly on your ascendant. It's been on and off your ascendant, but this is the last awakening. This is huge. You're a different person this year because of this. I promise you.
Yeah, literally from the sun period started, the Jupiter sun period, it was one of the most challenging 3 or 4 months of my life. It was so emotionally draining. I was letting go of past patterns. And just these last 2 or 3 weeks for me, I feel like a completely different person. I feel on the other side of it, I feel so different. And I now see why I went through what I went through, but it's crazy how different I feel now and more empowered. And then everything you're saying, it sounds like it just keeps wiring in, which is nice.
Well, you know what I think is so cool about astrology? When somebody's in a deep, dark place, you can tell them when it's going to be over. It's like, here's where the light is at the end of this tunnel. Hang on there. And this is what's going to happen. So people get excited and they get through these times. And then they know when things are going to take off. Because, you know, look at this, May 26th, once Jupiter goes into Aries and it's aspecting your Venus. Oh my God, that's like relationships and happiness and joy and love. Love is yours when Jupiter goes into Aries and starts aspecting Venus, which is the planet of love. You know, are you in a relationship right now?
No.
You will be.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
And I think this is going to be your life partner. Mark my words. I'm serious. Because in a man's chart, we are taught that Venus is the marriage partner. It's the wife.
Yeah.
Jupiter's going to come in and start aspecting that. This is phenomenal. Look at this by May 26th. And then we even have K2 crossing over Venus. It could be somebody that you feel such a connection with from a past life, or maybe it's somebody you've known before. But this is going to really, explode, because another thing that's going on is the eclipses are happening in Aries in April. So in your first house, an eclipse means a new awareness, a new awakening, a huge change. And the eclipses have been happening in your seventh house with K2. And that's why, over the course of the past year and a half, there's been an ending to a relationship.
Yeah.
With the eclipse with K2 in your seventh house. Now let's move forward. So, that needed to happen because you're preparing for the relationship of your life. Mark my words. But look down here. You're going to be in Jupiter Moon.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there all the way till January 21st. It starts the end of next September till January 21st of 2025. And during that time, May 1st of 2024, right here, Jupiter goes into Taurus.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's going to go over your Jupiter and your moon while you're in this Jupiter moon. So remember, the transit of Jupiter when you're in a dasha is more powerful. And when it comes over your Jupiter moon, oh my God, Aaron, this is where you are going to, elevate yourself to the next level. So where does Jupiter aspect your moon? And it's going to do so not once, not twice, but 3 times. Look at this. So Jupiter hits your moon September 15th of 2024, and then again November 1st of 2024, and it will happen again in 2025. I only keyed this in until January of 2025. So it's going to be going back and forth over your moon. You're going to move probably because the moon rules the 4th house of real estate, but you're going to move into a, beautiful big home, and you get to call the shots. And meanwhile, Jupiter, even when Jupiter hits your Jupiter, that's when you're going to be traveling and speaking. And I'm telling you, prosperity, money is yours. This is going to be the time that you've been awaiting your whole life. So get ready. It's 2024, but this whole year you're in preparation. Now, I will go back to Saturn is going to be aspecting your sun throughout this year. So you got to prepare for this too. Saturn, April 7th, 2023, September 1st, 2023. And then again, January 2nd of 2023. Saturn aspecting the sun can mean that you've got to go deeper. You've got to really be more serious about your purpose, your cause, and what you're doing, which I know you will. Because Saturn, here's the thing about Saturn. Saturn will give you what you've worked for. If you have worked really hard, Saturn is the taskmaster. It gives you what you're working for. But if you haven't been, Saturn will reprimand you and tell you exactly what you need to learn. Saturn's karma and lessons, and Saturn's not so easy, but it is going to be aspecting your sun. So that's a little difficult. That could even have be some issues around your father and things like that. But at least so you can prevent or mitigate things when you know this. That's the beauty of astrology, and to really expand on the things that are positive about to happen. So that's just a little recap of your chart that I wanted people to see how this all works. Is there any questions or anything you want to add to this, Aaron?
Just that. So every time I transitioned from Mars into Rahu into Jupiter. So what will I expect going from Jupiter to Saturn?
Okay, good.
I know that's when I'm 39, but I'm wondering, is that a big shift energetically, or?
Yes. Well, Saturn rules your 10th house, which is your work. It also rules your 11th house of groups, friends, organizations, but it sits in the 9th house. And the 9th house is the house of truth, spirituality, teaching. I get that, this is the time that you really take off into a new level of teaching. But they say for Aries rising, Saturn is not that great of a planet, but you're blessed because it's in the ninth house. The ninth house is also the house, by the way, of luck and blessings. So
Nice.
you've lucked out with your position of where Saturn is. But to make things more relevant, I always look from the moon. In other words, this is going another level, but I make the moon the ascendant. And the fact that Saturn goes into the eighth house, counting from the moon all the way around, this is going to be that you're going to take things into a deep psychological search. I think when you go into your Saturn dasha, it's going to be all around you searching for what's deeper, more meaningful. You've gone through relationships, marriage. What's going to give your life depth and meaning? And that's truly what you're all about. You're about that. It's not about money. It's not about prestige or fame or fortune. You really are the most purposeful, meaningful person, and Saturn's going to bring that out for you throughout that 19-year cycle. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I was curious, and thank you.
And I always take astrology into its higher realms of what is going to be the best experience. What is your most powerful vibration of this planet? That's what I want to empower people to be a part of. So that's that's how I see this. Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to know about your chart?
So just curious, maybe your listeners would be interested in this too. So so the ruler of the planet type thing. So does that light up that house as well? So if my second house is Taurus and the ruler is the seventh, does that just that's its connection? So if I have the moon in my second house, that also activates the fourth house. So is that why that also affects real estate, like you said?
Exactly.
Okay.
And the fact that you have the ruler of the second, which is Venus rules Taurus and goes to the seventh house, this could mean that you and your partner could work together, make money together, or that some of the issues in relationships that you've got to be careful of may involve money. So in other words, you got to make sure that when, you get involved with somebody, that your money issues are, clear.
Got it.
And pure. So it tells us everything we need to know and what to be careful of and what to expand on in terms of what the positive is for it.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was my only real question.
You are amazing because you actually understand astrology to a great level.
So during that sun, right when that Jupiter sun period started, and I started going inwards and going through my own processes, I became obsessed with figuring out. So I was learning traditional astrology, and then there was something about Vedic astrology that just captivated me, and how it's the astrology of the soul and all of that. And I studied it for about 2-3 weeks, looking at charts, looking at my own chart, looking at celebrities' charts. I just wanted to learn as much as I could, actually being able to even look at a chart and read it. And it was so fascinating to me. And so that's what kind of pulled me into it. So I am fascinated with Vedic astrology, and I'm at a place where I can read a chart. I'm not like the way you do or anything, but I can look at a chart and I know the houses and I know the signs and everything. So I think it's cool,
It is so cool because, like I said, I did Western for so long, but this takes it so much deeper. And there's really astrology. You can do anything with astrology. You can do charts, horary astrology on events. You can do prashna, where you which is electional astrology, where you elect. No, actually, it's the other way around. But prashna is the question chart, which is horary. And Muhurta is what electional astrology. In other words, picking the best day to get married. That's so important.
That's cool. Yeah.
Everything has a birth chart. Why wouldn't you choose the best birth chart for whatever you're doing? And business, of course. Astrology has so many uses. And most of all, you with your sun and your Mercury in the eighth house, that's what makes you want to go deep. And that's why you were in that sun's sub-cycle that made you research astrology, because actually the eighth house can deal with metaphysics and astrology. You said,
Yeah.
I want to learn the deeper aspects of, I always say the eighth house of why we're here. I mean,
Yeah.
that is huge. Why are we here? Come on, guys. That's what got me into astrology. I don't know about you.
I've had to learn how to soften up my viewpoint of Scorpio because I always thought having Mercury and Sun in Scorpio was very challenging.
Yeah.
But I've learned that there's a higher, like you're saying, there's a higher vibration of it that's actually very beneficial, you know?
Yes, yes. Scorpio is so passionate and intense and profound. They get to the core and the bottom of things.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. So, and that's why you are who you are, which is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any last words you want to tell the audience about yourself or anything you want to say, Aaron?
No, just thank you all so much for listening. And I'm a big fan of Vedic astrology. I think it's awesome. So I think it's cool that all of you are into it. And yeah, other than that, like the only other message maybe I'll leave you with is at different moments, there are times you can make a new choice about who you are. I did this back in 2017 where I decided I was a full-time YouTuber and I thought, felt, and acted equal to that. And that became my reality. Now I'm doing this in a different way where now I've been known as a YouTuber and I'm shedding, not that I'm not going to do that, but I'm moving from that into being and doing live events. So I'm having to kind of do this again, but this really does work when you focus on giving yourself permission to be who you came here to be, understanding that every moment you can make a new choice about who you are. And when you have the courage and the vulnerability to go into your past and to feel the unfelt emotions from the past, you allow yourself to release that energy to then become free to then be who you came here to be. So that's my message is you are a new you every moment. You can make a new choice about who you are and then link up your thoughts, feelings, and actions to that version of you, and then hold that frame and understand that reality changes as you change. All reality is a direct reflection of who you are being. So when you pay attention to that, that's when things change. And a lot of what Joni's sharing with me about astrology right now is that's going to shift for me into this new way of being. And that's when my external reality, I believe, will shift, is as I make this internal shift, which is also reflected in Vedic astrology. So thank you so much, Joni, for having me on. And thank you for who you are and everything you do and the fun spark that you bring to Vedic astrology. It's very cool for me to watch as well.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Aaron, for being so open, sharing your chart, and you being so vulnerable with all of that. That takes a little guts and courage there. So we greatly, greatly appreciate it. But you are who you are. And like you said, be proud of it. And you're an amazing human being that's changing lives. And that's why we're all here. So thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
For watching, and namaste.
Namaste.